Well, Carl and I met you in person. We actually played in the Sam Ryder Classic, which is something that's been going on for a long time. How many years has that been going on for, Steve, altogether?
The Sam Ryder Classic under different under different names has been going on since 1902.
And you've been running that for 10 years, right? Is that right? You've been in charge of that.
That's correct, yes.
What is the original Sam Ryder Cup?
So Sam Ryder was quite a character in a number of respects. He certainly had a heart for the marginalised, and around the turn of the century, the Church of England ministers were very much supported and helped along by the squire of the parish. For the Methodists, for the Congregationalists, the ministers in the free churches, they weren't so fortunate. They lived by faith, but not much kind of support from around. Sam Ryder decided to kind of get involved to a degree, and he initiated this competition, which lasted a weekend, which he paid for. He paid for the ministers to get to the event. He paid for the event, and it was a kind of a time where they could have some R&R and to do a bit of networking. It carried on from 1902. Obviously, during the war years, it stopped for a while, and then obviously there was 1 year of COVID. But apart from that, the competition has been run and been won by a minister or a person in ministry ever since 1902 to the current day.
A lot of people don't know about this original Ryder Cup. It was 25 years before what became, as we now know, the Ryder Cup. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, around that history?
So in continuation with Sam and how he felt, and like I said before, he very much kind of looked after the marginalized. It's a bit of a long story, but the reality was, around about the turn of the century and before, in the US professionals were very much looked after. They were treated as professionals. They were treated as people who knew their craft. In the UK, it was completely different. The professionals were kind of looked down on because these were the guys that would just kind of come along to a club and try and earn a bit of cash by either caddying for somebody, by giving a bit of advice, or even by taking people on in a golf match for some pounds, shillings, and pence. So there was a complete different understanding of the golf professional, and it reflected in the fact that whenever the UK held an open tournament, more often than not, the American golfers would come across and walk away with the trophy. Sam Ryder was kind of a little fed up of this, and so he decided he was going to completely change how the UK treated their golf professionals. He worked very closely with a professional called Abe Mitchell. In fact, he took Abe Mitchell on to be his professional, and Abe worked for him 6 days a week to get Sam to improve his golf. Of course, the seventh day was a day of rest, but that was the start of it. He was just trying to encourage the British golfers, the British professionals, to be treated a bit more with respect. He started putting competitions on, and he was the first person to pay travel money for the professionals for the British professionals to play at various events. So he just tried to nurture this kind of idea that these guys were not just wasters or kind of sharks that were just trying to make a little bit of money here and there. So that was the kind of background to the Ryder Cup. From then, obviously, he saw that the UK professionals were kind of getting seen in a different light, in a better standard, and from then, he decided that let's take the US professionals on in a different tournament. So in a nutshell, that's kind of where it comes from.
Wow. Fascinating. I mean, you've done a load of research, right, Steve, on his life, Sam Ryder's life. I mean, he got down to a low handicap, right? He converted his back garden into a driving range. I would love to do that one day. That's inspirational. But yeah, what kind of other things, I mean, have you picked up around his life?
Oh, well, I'm really a bit loath to say too much because there's a bit to share, and I kind of want to try and keep that for some of the talks that we have in the US. But there's a lot of fascinating things. I mean, one of the key things that I've learned, I think I understand from Sam Ryder, and it is kind of my opinion on reading about him. He had when he was young, he had a very strong mother who was very conscientious. It was the turn of the century in the UK. Middle class people, had a little bit of money. The lower classes didn't have any, and he used to go out with his mum, and his mum used to go and take food to neighbors, to the poor, to people that needed it. And I kind of think this was, his upbringing, and kind of being around the likes of his mum, kind of give him a good kind of a good start to life, and the kind of person that he was. Like I said before, he kind of really tried to encourage the marginalized throughout his life. I mean, he was very big with in his church with youth, to the extent around about that time everything seemed to happen around about the turn of the century. He was very much had the ear of the PM at the time, the Prime Minister at the time, because he felt that Christian education wasn't being taught in school. And again, he was one of the key guys that had kind of RE, we call it religious education, brought into schools. So throughout his life, through every aspect of his life, he seemed to have an influence in some way or another. And Steve, he said, if we had the two trophies here on that table, and Sam Ryder was sat between us, he said, I think he would be more impressed with the original Sam Ryder trophy than what we're doing with the Sam Ryder Cup, which I thought was a lovely thing to say. And possibly there's an element of truth in that as well.
We know you're coming over to the U.S. Your cup is returning home, as we say in the U.S. Just don't forget, people, April 22nd, Monday in Houston. If you're in that area, if you're anywhere in Texas, give us a shout. If you're going to be in Charlotte on Wednesday, April 24th, give us a shout. These two great events will be a perfect time to hear more about Sports Friends in person, but also more about using sports in ministry, specifically the Ryder Cup. Samuel, Ryder Cup, the original Ryder Cup, is coming home.